Welcome to our Restoring America channel, where we will show you a common person's approach to do-it-yourself repairs. Today we are working on a 2003 Ford F250 Super Duty XLT 7.3-liter turbo diesel crew cab. We're going to remove the brake line that goes from the anti-lock braking system, or ABS, to the intermediate brake line. I have the ABS's rubber cover pushed out of the way and exposed 3 of the brake lines attached to it. I cannot see where the brake lines go from there, so I have decided to remove the battery, its housing, and all plastic ductwork. I will probably have to move the intercooler pipe for the turbo as well. As I look around to see what I will or will not have to remove, I want to point out that both negative battery terminals have been disconnected. Check out my video showing how I did that if interested. I also wanted to say that the intermediate brake line has been disconnected and removed. See my video for that if you need to also. The truck's description is in the title, so if you are working on something else, you could find some variations. As I come across electrical connections, I will try to point those out. I will also try to show bolt, tab, and clip locations as I work through this. And to get started, I will go ahead and remove the positive battery terminal. And again, my destination is that ABS module and one of those 3 lines. Actually, before I run and get my tools, I will quickly disconnect the electrical connection at the air cleaner restriction indicator. There is a tab on the side that needs to be pulled out slightly, and then you can pull the plug straight out. While I'm at it, there are 4 metal clips that hold the air filter housing together, and these release by simply pushing down on their tabs. I'll go ahead and take off the top of the air filter housing along with the hose attached to it at the connection where it mates up with the turbocharger air intake hose. And I'll just go ahead and blow off some loose dirt. The adjusting bolt on the clamp has a slot for a screwdriver, but it also has a hex-shaped head. I like to use a socket and ratchet driver whenever I can, so I am using it here with an extension to loosen the clamp some. Of particular importance, the clamp has 2 slots with a tab through the smaller one. Once the clamp is loosened enough, you will be able to rotate the clamp and then move the larger slot to the tab. And once you have moved the clamp's larger slot to the tab, the clamp and attached hose is ready for removal. I was able to grab the top of the air filter housing and pull it, with its attached hose, up and off of the turbocharger air intake hose. And after removing the air filter, I exposed the air filter housing mounting bolts underneath. I left the sound on my camera, which is not always possible due to the nearby construction, as you can hear, but I wanted to show you the tab and slot locations for the combined battery and air filter housing. GoPro, stop recording. As you can see, it is easy to separate the slot from the tab with a screwdriver. However, I do need to disconnect the battery. Just a reminder that my negative battery terminals have already been disconnected, and there's a video for that. Looks like I'm going to need a 10mm socket for that nut. Using a 10mm deep socket with a 1/4-inch ratchet drive, I removed one nut that holds my auxiliary power wires and just loosened the actual battery terminal nut for removal of the terminal. Once the nut is loosened sufficiently, the battery terminal just lifts up and off of the battery post. Once the terminal has been removed from the battery post and the housing tabs and slots separated, the top of the battery housing lifts off. Using a 5/16" socket, I loosened the battery base clamp bolt. Once I removed the battery base clamp bolt, I was able to remove the battery base clamp. And I was then able to remove the battery from the vehicle. And using my 9/16" socket, I loosened and then removed two long bolts on the outside of the air filter housing and also two bolts inside of it. Now that I have the bolts removed from the air filter housing, I wanted to show you the air temperature sensor that I will remove next. It is located on the outside of the housing by the brake fluid reservoir. The air sensor and plug can be removed by turning both counterclockwise about a 1/4 turn and then pulling straight out. I have 4 bolts in the battery housing that I will quickly remove with a cordless impact driver with 1/2-inch deep socket. Now that the bolts have been removed, the next thing I will need to do is remove the fresh air intake duct that leads to the grill. As you notice here, it has tabs that will need to be pushed in. The tabs on the plastic duct are soft enough to be pushed down by hand. And once that duct is pushed out of the way, the entire battery and air filter housing can be removed. The duct is not attached to anything and just pulls straight out. The intercooler pipe is the next thing I will look at removing, but with the housing out of the way, I was able to identify the line that leads to the intermediate brake line as the middle line of the three that you can see here. At the ABS module, I identified the same line as the line on the far right of the three taller lines. Thank you for watching part 1 of this brake line removal series, and be sure to comment, like, and subscribe to make sure you do not miss part 2. Also, there is so much more to come. Take care now.